The Schopenhauer wisdom. How to accept suffering rather than struggle against it. Schopenhauer lens. Something has happened to you at some point that you did not deserve. Perhaps it was unexpected, the sort of thing which comes without notice and rearranges everything after it. Perhaps it was slower, a disappointment building up over months or years to the point where it becomes merely a part of how you hold yourself now. In any case, at one time or the other, the world failed to keep its part in a bargain which you were not aware of having entered into. And the instinctive reaction, the absolutely natural, the absolutely human instinct was to fight it, to resist, to deny the fact of what had occurred and to make a stand against it with all possible resources. Anger, bargaining, the continuous feedback of what could have happened instead. And how much of thy energy it costs thy, not the first one, the fighting of it, the years of contention with something that has already occurred. The tiring, intangible battle with a reality that has not been an inch in the direction you pulled it. Schopenhauer had a word to say about that war. And it is not what you would imagine a philosopher with his pessimism to do. He never said that suffering is good. He did not tell us that pain is not real, and that we can deal with everything as long as we have the right attitude. He did not give you that type of reframe where you seek the gift within the wound as the wound remains open. Something more candid than all that, he said. Suffering, he said, is no exception. It is the state of things, not to be the cause to lose hope as to cease being amazed. The combating of suffering is nearly always worse than the suffering, and since Schopenhauer could see this, he noticed it. The initial suffering is shaped, has an extent, has a start and ultimately a finish. Yet the protest against it, the unwillingness to admit that it is taking place, the ongoing psychological bargaining with reality that does not naturally have its limit. It lasts as long as you feed it, and the majority keep it nourished years, others all their lives through. This is the mechanism as he conceived it. There is something innate in the will, which is a hatred of pain, not only physical pain, anything that does not support the vision of the world it prefers. Any difference there is between reality as it is, and reality as decided by the will it should be. And thus when suffering comes, the actual suffering, the kind that cannot be reframed or optimized or gratitude journaled, the initial action of the will is to reject it. This is not supposed to be the case. This is not acceptable. This is not what I signed. That denial is no weakness. It is completely automatic. The will is safeguarding itself in the manner it is familiar with. But this is what Schopenhauer noticed, and what most of us with years of experience have only to discover the hard way. The rejection is irrelevant to what has happened. It merely holds you in it. Each time you are arguing with reality, it is not arguing with you at all. It just remains to be what it is. And you just waste a lot of energy on a negotiation that was never going to yield a different result. Acceptance, and I wish to be cautious of this term, since it has been pussied down into little use acceptance, in the sense of Schopenhauer, does not imply approval. It does not imply that the thing that has happened is all right. It does not imply that you can no longer mourn or be angry or experience the entire burden of what is lost. It is not doing serenity and having something inside you that is still burning. It is much easier and much difficulter than all that. It is letting the truth of what has occurred to be and not using the rest of your energy to make it not have occurred. One of the distinctions that Schopenhauer made I find really useful. He distinguished the pain of the wound and the suffering of resistance. It is the wound, what happened to you. It is the resistance that you do with it after. And though you never can always make the wound, you made not the wound it came. You can greatly control more than most people think you can, the resistance, not immediately. Not by a stroke of will, on a hard-going Tuesday morning, but slowly by the dull, unheroic art of noticing that you are wrangling with something that has already taken place, of just laying aside the argument, that moment. And this, he said, too, and it is the tip that hits the hardest. The experience of suffering, being confronted squarely and without evasion, transforms you in a way that nothing as comfortable can. Not that pain is noble and or instructive or secretly a gift. Schopenhauer was too sincere to be sentimentally inclined. But since the immediate experience of suffering, the lack of the buffer of resistance, the lack of the insulation of distraction, the lack of the narrative of how this should not be occurring deprived the will of something it had been employing to shield itself. The delusion of being a part to the struggle of living. Majority of us work wonders of energy to keep that illusion, living lives that will keep trouble at a distance. Being adequately occupied, cozy, distracted, such that the underlying ambiguity of existence does not creep too near, and something bursts through. And the will is first outraged at it because the plan was to work. According to Schopenhauer, the arrangement was never true. It was never an easy task. It was merely part of the unrealized. And when the fiction is interfered with, when something occurs which cannot be held off, then you have, first of all, an experience of reality as it is. That touch is hurtful. It is too, he thought, the commencement of true wisdom. And what then does acceptance look like? Not as an idea, as something you do on a certain trying morning. It looks like this. You hear the argument reeling in your mind, rehearsing what ought to have been. The case you are constructing in your head about the individual, the situation, the narrative you were refused. And do not trace it, as you might say, do not bring in another veil of should have and shouldn't have, but merely name what is there already. Not what happened, not what it means. What exactly is it that is here right now in this moment in your body? Tightness, heaviness, the particular character of this very pain. Not to name is to give up. It is the first candid encounter with what is really going on, as opposed to the narrative you have constructed about it. And that touch shorter, less glamorous. With the same fault not to be taken perfectly on 100 mornings, that is what carries the burden of resistance downwards into that which can really be carried. Schopenhauer was no man who had come to terms with everything. He was obstinate and inconsistent and bore his own grievances with more faithfulness than his philosophy would have suggested. But he knew what most men have to be taught too late in life. The most costly war that you will ever wage is the war against what already has happened. And as soon as you give up the struggle, not defeat, but clarity, as soon as you are not wasting your energy on the past, you are going to have all your energy to do anything. What should have happened to you was not deserved. That can be entirely the case. Yet, it is you who still have to live with the burden of struggling against it. And whether at some time, not now, not at once, at any rate you are being safeguarded by the struggle, is a question to be considered, or simply holding you somewhere you need not stay. Subscribe. I shall find you in the following.